Hey everybody, Swish here, coming at you with a different kind of video today. Something that I've been kind of thinking about. I thought, man, I really wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on them, and that is about SHTF scenarios and how to handle them. And I'm kind of seeing things out there, a lot of good stuff, don't get me wrong. What would you do? And I was kind of inspired by to do this from Randall at Grunt Proof. His video, Where Would You Go? Really hit home, and I really wanted to, it got me thinking about that, and I really wanted to kind of elaborate on that, and go further and maybe how I would do it, because his environment might be different from mine. For instance, I live in kind of a suburban neighborhood outside of a city in Indiana. And I thought to myself, well, what would I do in that situation? Whatever the case may be, if it's a natural disaster, a shutdown or anything like that. How would I go about my business? I wouldn't bug out or do anything like that. I would stay where I am. I would stay put because I have the house and I have a family. I have children and things of that nature. And it got me thinking, okay, well, what do I do to sustain that if that situation ever happened? What kind of things would I have to do? And how can I prepare if that situation ever happens? And I see a lot of videos of guys out there in their, multicams and, camo uniform, myself included, wearing them, was in them in my last video. Walking around with their ARs, SHTF and da 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 da. And I started thinking, I don't think I'd go that route, because I don't want to bring attention to myself in a scenario like that. Because one, people might want to try to take what you get. And so I started thinking, well, how would I handle my situation like that? Well, first and foremost, I know there's the gray man theory. And there's kind of a lot of things about the gray man that I see. We see it in movies. They did a movie called The Gray Man. And I saw that and I went, wow, a guy in an Armani suit, in a club somewhere. And then later on in the movie, see him in a tight shirt, um, with a kind of a black harness on, with an AR, rocking an AR, with a silencer and all these things on it. And I thought, again, I would not go that route. If I had to go out and do some kind of reconnaissance to see what had happened, don't want to draw attention to myself. Don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. So what would I do? Well, of course I would arm myself, but it wouldn't be with my AR. I would take my pistol, I would have that, and I would have it concealed so nobody would be able to see it and know it was there. I would wear regular civilian clothes, probably something that goes with where I'm at, where I live, something that would fit that kind of place, and I would probably have pockets to have things. Maybe I might take a pen and paper, that I can put in my pocket and go out and take some notes if I have to, and figure out what it is. And I thought, well, how would I do that? How would I go about that? Well, there's a couple ways you can do it. One of them is you could start in your own neighborhood. How do you do reconnaissance in your own neighborhood? Well, no, again, you're not going through the woods with your AR at the low ready to do anything. You can do it simply by, going out and walking your dog, and checking out the neighborhood, seeing what kind of people is. There's a lot of things that you can tell about the people in your neighborhood. For instance, in my neighborhood, I noticed there's a lot of American flags flying. There's a lot of Trump flags. There's a lot of people with vegetable gardens, a lot of people with ARs, a lot of people who support the Second Amendment. I'm fortunate to live in a predominantly red state, but I do live very close to, one thing about living close to a city is you do have, the blue side that kind of peaks, but, so what can I tell from that? Well, very patriotic in the neighborhood. I'm fortunate with that. I noticed that I had, I think, about 4 policemen living in my neighborhood, so I have law enforcement. We have a community pool. I would go down in the summer and start to get to know the people in the neighborhood. You know, what we talk about. Found out one guy was a veteran who was a medic. Well, that might be something that I can, use, So you can figure out a lot about simply by going and walking your dog. And that could be kind of a form of a patrol. And nobody knows you're doing it because you're just looking around. There are a few people in the neighborhood who have conflicting ideologies, and that's fine. And you can tell a lot of people post things in their yard. People kind of make themselves known based on how they live. And so those are things that I kind of noticed as I was walking the neighborhood. You could go further. You could get in your car, go out, almost like a mounted patrol, but no one knows you're doing it because you're wearing regular clothes. You're just going out, driving, looking around, seeing what's close to you. What stores are close to you, what gas stations are close to you, what's in your neighborhood, how far away is the nearest grocery store, how far away are resources that you can get. And a lot of times I see a lot of people in, the whole idea is get away from everybody and live on a plot of land and sustain yourself. And that sounds good, but I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that we can sustain ourselves with no outside help and prolong that. That's just my opinion. You need other people. You need a community. You need support. And I thought to myself, could I support myself with the people in my neighborhood and around my, where I live? And what happens if, we lost power? What happens if we couldn't get those resources? I started looking around and noticed that there's a wooded area. We do have wildlife in the neighborhood, but I'm kind of rambling here a little bit because I didn't plan the video, but it just was something I thought, I had to share. But, as far as being the gray man in a sense, I went into the city, downtown to see what was there. What's the city like? What are the people like? And you just do that by walking around, That's a form of reconnaissance, and nobody knows you're doing it. For all they know, you're just a person walking around. Maybe you're a tourist. Who knows? They don't know. There are different ways to camouflage yourself without having to wear camo, hiding in plain sight in a sense. And, but that was something that I kind of started to think about, started to do, it's a different kind of prepping, I don't really have a bug out bag. I don't believe in bug out bags because where am I going to go? That just goes back to what Randall said. Where am I going to go? Well, nowhere. So why would I have a bug out bag when I have everything right here and I can just build from here? Do I want to eventually get my own plot of land and everything? Yeah. But I have a lot of resources. I think we take for granted the resources that we have around us, even in an urban environment. For instance, yeah, we might run out of things at the store, but is there anything that I could get in my neighborhood in a really, really bad scenario? Government shut down, the grid shuts down, something like that. Like I said, there's a wooded area right in my neighborhood. Huge, it's just, 4 or 5 acres, and it's full of wildlife, possums, squirrels. There's a ton of rabbits around my neighborhood. There's things. So if there was a meat shortage or a food shortage, well, maybe I could go out and trap some of those animals if I really had to. We have a vegetable garden, in the yard that we're about ready to get ready, so we can maybe grow vegetables. One thing I noticed, that the neighborhood I live in used to be all farmland. It's very fertile land. There's a lot of worms when it rains. When it comes up, the entire street is filled with worms, which tells me the land is good soil. We have community ponds that, from what I gather, they don't stock, I don't believe. The fish actually grow and spawn. Could do fishing if I really, really needed to. So I think we take for granted, the materials that we have around us. There's kind of this mentality when you bug out, you have to get away from the city and away from everybody. And you don't necessarily have to do that, at least right at the beginning. It really depends on how your neighborhood is, what your environment is. I'm fortunate to live in a neighborhood and in an area where everyone is pretty much like-minded, which is great. You might not have that, so it might be different. But I would suggest, with the bug outs and with everything, and don't get me wrong, I love going in the woods, love carrying my AR. I would if I have to. If the situation got really bad, I would have to. It also goes into do research in where you live. Back in 2020, when the whole, I think it was George Floyd, whatever happened, there was a protest downtown where I live. CS gas was used. So I know that there is conflict where I live, civil unrest that happens. There are those things that happen where I live. So I might have to be ready for that. Maybe not. It just depends on the situation. But I was really thinking about that today. And the reality is, I would stay where I'm at if a situation like that happened. And I would probably put the camo uniforms away, probably be a little bit more discreet so as not to draw attention to myself. I wouldn't even carry a backpack, because I think a backpack in itself draws attention, especially if it was a situation like that. Because a backpack to me automatically insinuates, what are you carrying? Especially in this day and age. How many stores do you go into where you see no backpacks allowed? We see that now, which brings up another point. Doing recon in your area. What areas can't you take a firearm? Indiana's a constitutional carry state. Does that mean I can carry my firearm wherever I want? Unfortunately, no. Can't take it into a school, not that they know of. Can't take it into a government building. Libraries, certain businesses have it right there. Big sign. No firearm. No weapon. Can't even take a knife. So lots of things to think about. And I know I kind of rambled on this video. I didn't mean to. I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible so I don't bore everybody. But I just wanted to share my thoughts. And these are just kind of thoughts going. I didn't write anything down. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just thought I would, shoot from the hip, if you will, or take a shot in the dark, whatever it is, and share what I think. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. If you think I'm completely wrong, hey, let me know in the comments. Or what would you do? What's your environment like where you live? How does it work for you? What things can you do to, improve your situation instead of bugging out? Now, am I saying that bugging out is completely bad? No. Maybe there's a situation where you have to, but you have to have a place to go, and that has to be pre-planned. I don't have that. Most of my family lives where I am, so I'm fortunate to also have family members if I have to go somewhere else. I'm also fortunate to where, I live in an area where there's lots of stores, Walgreens, CVS, gas stations that have an abundance of things. So I don't really need to carry too much with me. I think that's another thing we think about is, I got to have a bag in my car. Well, where do you live? Do you live in a place where you need to actually have a bag in your car? Or maybe you just need to carry, $50 to $100 of cash. So if something happens, you can just go to the nearest store, saves all the weight, saves everything you need. Maybe just take a couple bottles of water with you in the car, and that's all you need to get you where you need to go if you get stranded or something like that. Um, those kinds of things. But I know I kind of rambled on here, and I don't. I hope I didn't. You know. Bounce around too much, but like I said, just sharing my thoughts with you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, what you would do. And want to give a shout out to my daughters, Kyla and Talia, for helping me film some of the footage you saw earlier. And you also saw my son in one of the videos walking beside me downtown. So I just want to give a shout out to them. And thanks for listening, guys. And make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share. Always appreciate that. Thanks for everyone who has subscribed from my last video. Really appreciate you guys here. And see you on the next one. Until then, get outside and have a great time. Thanks, guys.